Have you heard of the famous book, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo? It tells the story of a Hollywood actress and her controversial career, focusing on the scandalous number of 7 failed marriages. The author, Taylor Jenkins Reid, has created an addictive and easy-to-read story, considering it feels like someone is telling you gossip. And that's precisely why it's inevitable to wonder if Evelyn was a fictional character or if she really existed. The truth is that Evelyn is purely a product of the author's imagination, but it's hard to believe she wasn't inspired by a real-life figure to create her. And that's how, through my research, I found out that there was indeed an actress who didn't have 7 but 8 marriages, and I bet you've heard her name before. Elizabeth Rosamond Taylor was born on February 27, 1932, in London, England, to a well-to-do American family. From a very young age, Liz showed an innate talent for show business, and it wasn't long before Hollywood came knocking on her door. At 10 years old, she made her film debut in There's One Born Every Minute, 1942, but it was at 12, when she starred in National Velvet, 1944, that she truly became a star. This movie not only catapulted her to fame, but also solidified her place as Hollywood's child prodigy. In the following years, Elizabeth not only grew older, but also rose in status as one of the most sought-after actresses in the industry. With her dazzling beauty, especially her rare violet eyes, and her acting talent, she captured the hearts of millions. As her career progressed, she took on increasingly complex and challenging roles. One of the roles that marked her transition from child prodigy to adult star was her participation in Little Women, 1949, where she played Amy March, the youngest and most vain of the sisters. This role was crucial in proving that Elizabeth was not just a pretty face, but an actress with impressive ability to bring complex characters to life. Her career in Hollywood wasn't easy. Elizabeth had to face the challenges of growing up in the spotlight, where every aspect of her life was scrutinized by the press and the public. From an early age, she had to learn to manage her public image and take control of her career, demanding better contracts and salaries, becoming one of the first actresses to earn $1 million for a film. And that was for Cleopatra, 1963. Yes, the very movie where she met one of her great loves, but we'll save that for later. But not everything was glamour in Elizabeth's life. Like her career, her personal life was full of ups and downs. From her battles with addiction to her health issues, including a complicated back surgery that nearly left her paralyzed, Liz faced numerous challenges throughout her life. However, she always demonstrated incredible resilience, emerging each time with more strength and determination. Elizabeth Taylor was a strong ally of the LGBTQ+ community long before it was common for celebrities to do so. Her friendship with Rock Hudson, a gay actor who died of AIDS, was a catalyst for her activism in the fight against the disease. Evelyn Hugo, although she has a central romantic relationship with a woman in the novel, also has strong connections to the LGBTQ+ community, and her story is deeply intertwined with themes of identity and acceptance. And although Elizabeth had hundreds of reasons to stand out, from her glamorous image to her enigmatic violet eyes, the most scandalous part of her life was undoubtedly her 8 failed marriages. Let's start with the first on the list, Conrad Nicky Hilton Jr. And no, we're not talking about just any Hilton, but the heir to one of the largest hotel chains in the world. Liz was only 18 when they married in 1950, in what seemed like a fairy tale wedding. But that fairy tale turned into a nightmare faster than you can say, "I do." It's said that Nicky was quite the playboy, and his fondness for partying and alcohol made him a rather challenging husband, subjecting Elizabeth to multiple instances of physical and psychological abuse. Result: marriage over in just 8 months. Yes, 8. Doesn't this remind you of Evelyn Hugo and her first marriage to Ernie Diaz? Both young women, almost girls, dazzled by the promise of a fairy tale that quickly fades. And like Evelyn, Elizabeth didn't let this first failure define her story. Liz didn't waste time, and the following year, she got married again. Enter Michael Wilding, a British actor, 20 years her senior. Liz was looking for stability after the disaster with Hilton, and Wilding seemed like the perfect gentleman. They had 2 children and a relatively calm relationship. But of course, calm in Hollywood, that doesn't last. After 5 years, Liz grew bored with the tranquility and decided it was time to move on. Here, we see a similarity with Evelyn Hugo and her second marriage to Don Adler, though with less drama. Both sought stability and protection in a world as volatile as Hollywood, but soon discovered that stability wasn't enough. Liz, like Evelyn, needed more than a quiet life. She needed passion and excitement. And this is where the story gets serious. Mike Todd, a film producer and one of the great loves of her life. Liz always said that Mike was the true love of her life, and although they were only married for a year, this marriage left a lasting impact. A year that ended in tragedy when Todd died in a plane crash. This event deeply marked Liz, and her mourning was genuine. Imagine the drama of losing the love of your life so suddenly. But as they say, life goes on, and Liz, though heartbroken, didn't stay alone for long. This tragic romance echoes deeply in Evelyn Hugo's story, especially in her relationship with Harry Cameron, one of the men who meant the most to her, though in a very different context. Like Evelyn, Liz experienced the pain of losing someone she deeply loved, and that pain would mark her forever. But it also pushed her to keep seeking happiness, despite everything. And right after the tragedy, we enter the most scandalous episode of Liz's life, Eddie Fisher. Why scandalous? Well, because Eddie was the husband of Liz's best friend, the iconic Debbie Reynolds. But Liz and Eddie were so devastated by Mike Todd's death that they found comfort in each other. The result? An explosive divorce for Debbie and a quick wedding for Liz and Eddie in 1959. Imagine stealing your best friend's husband. But as expected, this love built on the ruins of another marriage didn't last. Just 5 years later, bye-bye Eddie. This scandal reminds us of Evelyn's marriage to Rex North, a relationship that was also more of a convenient arrangement than a real romance. In both cases, love seemed more like a temporary refuge than a relationship meant to last. And like Evelyn, Elizabeth quickly realized that compassion and comfort aren't always enough to sustain a marriage. And here, we arrive at the most famous and passionate chapter, Richard Burton. This is the man Liz married not once, but twice. They met on the set of Cleopatra, and the chemistry was so explosive that not only sparks flew, but fireworks, the fights, the reconciliations, the jewels. Yes, because Richard was famous for giving her the most spectacular jewelry, including the famous Taylor Burton diamond. They married in 1964, divorced in 1974, and then got married again in 1975. But as they say, if something doesn't work the first time, it probably won't work the second time either. So in 1976, they divorced again, this time for good. Isn't this so Evelyn Hugo? Her relationship with Richard Burton mirrors the intensity and complexity of Evelyn's relationship with Max Gerard. Both romances were passionate, tumultuous, and ultimately unsustainable. But like Evelyn, Elizabeth never regretted loving intensely, even if it cost her dearly. After the Burton whirlwind, Liz decided to try her luck in another field, politics. She married John Warner, a Virginia senator, in 1976. But friends, it seems that life in Washington, D.C. wasn't what Liz expected. She went from being the queen of Hollywood to being the wife of a politician, something that didn't quite fit her vibrant personality. After 6 years of trying to adapt to this new life, Liz decided it was time to shine again, and the marriage ended. Here we could see a parallel with Evelyn's marriage to Robert Jameson, a marriage that was more about image and convenience than true love. Both women tried to fit into worlds that were completely foreign to their essence, only to discover that their true home was on stage, under the spotlight, not in someone else's shadow. And to top it all off, Elizabeth Taylor's 8th and final husband, Larry Fortensky. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Liz met Larry at the Betty Ford Rehab Clinic in 1988. Yes, the handsome construction worker stole the heart of the Hollywood diva. Their wedding in 1991 was a media event held at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. Although this marriage didn't last forever, they separated in 1996, Liz always spoke fondly of Larry. a love story that closed the romantic chapter of her life. This final marriage echoes the final stage of Evelyn Hugo's life. Although Larry and Harry don't have much in common, both stories show us that, at the end of their lives, both Evelyn and Liz sought relationships that were less complicated, more authentic, and based on genuine affection, far from the noise and expectations of Hollywood. By now, you've probably confirmed that Elizabeth's life was indeed a great inspiration for Taylor Jenkins Reid. However, the most important factor in the story, Evelyn's true love, Celia, is the most authentic part of her story. On the other hand, Taylor has mentioned some other actresses who also contributed to the creation of Evelyn as a character. These were actresses Ava Gardner and Rita Hayworth, who were contemporaries of the protagonist. Gardner, like Evelyn, confided her secrets to a journalist who wrote her biography. On the other hand, Hayworth, whose real name was Margarita Carmen Cancino, changed her name when she arrived in Hollywood, just as Evelyn did. Ava Gardner, Elizabeth Taylor, Rita Hayworth, and Evelyn Hugo all experienced firsthand the suffering of a deeply misogynistic film industry. They were all sexualized, both on and off the screen. Gardner, for example, was dubbed the most beautiful animal in the world, a nickname she hated. Even today, some articles attribute the success of Taylor and Hayworth to their physical appearance. Evelyn was taught that using her body was the way to get what she wanted. Additionally, Jenkins criticizes the social pressure on women to become mothers. The press questions why the protagonist doesn't have children yet, suggesting that this decision leaves a husband very dissatisfied. 8 husbands, countless adventures, but only one Elizabeth Taylor. Like Evelyn Hugo, Liz lived her life to the fullest, loved passionately, and wasn't afraid to make mistakes. Both women broke molds and hearts, leaving an indelible mark not just on Hollywood, but on the history of love. Their lives were a reminder that, in the end, we are the choices we make, the loves we live, and the stories we leave behind. So, the next time you hear her name, remember that behind that dazzling smile was a woman who, like Evelyn Hugo, lived, loved, and fought until the end. Elizabeth Taylor was the real-life Evelyn Hugo, and her legacy is as captivating as the stories we've read on the pages of that bestseller. And that's the gossip for today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for more fascinating stories like this one. See you in the next video.